This is how Hollywood is making fun of men these days. It's no secret we're living in the most confusing time in human history to be a man, and Hollywood is doing everything they can to make it worse. But why? I mean, of course, part of it is they think they need to punish men for all our years of oppression and patriarchy. And because, greed. But it's more than that. Because look at it, they've already won. Thanks to the far left, men are struggling badly compared to women in a long list of statistical categories. And you want to know who has real power in a society? Look at who's afraid to speak. Women can say whatever they want and they're celebrated for it. Men can't hardly put two words together without fear of getting canceled. But if that's the statistical reality, then why is Hollywood kicking men while they're down? The answer? Well, two reasons. It still makes you popular with the cool kids. You get a lot of clout for it, and that's addictive. But also, they're scared. Their victimhood narrative gives them a lot of power and leverage in today's social economy, and they're afraid of losing it. Because what's the biggest threat to their advantage? And the greatest potential force for the actual equality that they don't want? Strong, genuinely masculine men. So to put that threat down, Hollywood's come up with a clever new tactic. At first, it just looks like Rian Johnson wrote the character Duke in Glass Onion to shame the bald-headed, red-pill, hyper-masculine dudes out there like Jocko and David Goggins and Tate. But this is a red herring. Sure, he looks burly and gruff on the surface, but watch how he acts. He's emotionally unstable, he expects other people to provide for his lifestyle, and he cares about his looks a lot. He's always showing off his body. Rian Johnson didn't make this guy masculine. He scooped it out and replaced it with toxic femininity. Hollywood doesn't make fun of masculinity. They don't show it. This is just a sideshow to distract you from what's missing in all the male characters. But what is it about genuine masculinity that makes it so much of a threat they had to expunge it? To answer that, we're going to look at the 5 core elements and how each one makes you dangerous in a good way. Plus, how you can cultivate them. As men, we thrive when we're capable and competent. You just feel better as a man. But it's more than that. We don't just want to be capable of doing something. We want to be good at it. Really good. You don't just daydream about being a fighter pilot. You want to be the best fighter pilot, the strongest warrior, the smartest scientist. This is one of our most primal callings, the pursuit of excellence. To be so good at what you do that you leave a lasting mark on the world. And this has its roots in God's command for us to cultivate the earth and subdue it. The more you subdue yourself and the field you work in, the more fruit you can bear. And since women tend to choose the men who add the most value to their life, excellence makes you attractive. But a lot of men have been so browbeaten by life, they've given up even trying. And why wouldn't we? Society punishes men for pursuing excellence every chance it gets. Why? Because excellence, wielded by a man, is a threat. It's dangerous. Think about it. People who are the best at what they do have a lot of leverage. They're in high demand, so they can walk away. And that kind of leverage is a problem for anyone who wants power. And there's a lot of people that want power over men. Men who are good at stuff are also highly self-sufficient. That's a dangerous combo, especially for the left, because it's a lot harder to exploit and control people who don't need the government to do everything for them. So what do? They punish excellence by pushing for equality of outcome at any cost. It doesn't matter if you're the best at the job or you get the best results. If you're a man, back of the line. Guys, don't let this stupidity stop you. Be dangerous anyway. Chase excellence in whatever you do, and I guarantee you, someone will find it valuable and reward you for it, even if the only one who does is God. Most of the time, people want you to be a chameleon, right? They want you to blend in, agree with them, make them feel good. But being a man isn't about being nice and blending in. It's about being a formidable force for truth and good. And the heart of that force comes from your conviction. It's what gives you the strength to act out your beliefs and tell the truth all the time, even if it makes people uncomfortable. Jesus was the prime example of this. He was one of the most disagreeable people ever to live. He was so convicted of the truth that he was willing to disagree with anyone, even the ruling elites who had the power to end his life, and did, because he knew that uncomfortable truths will lead people out of darkness, while comforting lies will slowly kill them. Our culture today loves its comforting lies, so it does all it can to remove any trace of conviction from young men. Conviction is dangerous to the left. It's a danger to their feelings and their ideologies, because ideologies are built on narratives, and nothing gets in the way of a good story quite like the truth. So Hollywood and the left try to eliminate your conviction by going to the source, your identity. Your strongest convictions flow out of who you are. For example, I come from a blue-collar background where if you have a practical problem, you fix it with a practical solution. So I have some strong convictions that young men are facing a lot of practical problems that the church isn't offering practical help for. And that's causing a huge issue, which we'll talk more about in the next video. So hit subscribe and the notification bell if you want to see that when it comes out. So conviction flows out of who you are. But because the core components of male identity cause a lot of problems for the left, as we're seeing, they do everything they can to erase your identity as a man. They create a straw man version of it that's easy to attack, and then they shame you and ridicule you to make you feel like it's wrong to be a man in hopes that you'll stop. But this is where followers of Jesus have an advantage. Our identity is a son and a co-heir of the King of Kings. Don't let anyone else tell you who you are. Root your identity in the person that God made you to be, in your relationship with Him, and a community of people who follow Him and support you. That foundation will give you the strength of conviction to tell the whole truth and live it. It wasn't that long ago that it was common to see strong male characters in Hollywood who were confident, decisive leaders that solved the problem and saved the day by taking the initiative and making their own choices. That's gone now. Men in movies don't make critical decisions anymore. They make mistakes. That's it. Hollywood wants you to believe that you're not fit to lead, but that's exactly what God made you to do. You're called to be the leader of your household. That means you don't let autoplay decide the course of your life. You pick where you go and what you do based on what God calls you to accomplish. Why are decisive men dangerous? Is that the obvious? Think about this. Without God, you need some kind of plan to save humanity from what we're doing to ourselves, and the left thinks they can do it by socially engineering utopia. It's basically their religion. But in order to reach their vision for utopia, they've got to get everybody on the same page, headed the same way. People who are aimless and passive are very easy to manipulate and direct, but strong, decisive leaders are a problem. They can't have anyone taking people off of the path to utopia. That's a threat to their plan for salvation. I don't know about you, but I think since every time the left has tried to create utopia, they've only ever created hell on earth. It's probably not the greatest idea in the world to be passive and just let them have their way with you. You don't have to be rudderless, though. Grab the helm, take back the leadership of your life, set a goal, make the first move, and be the decision maker in every aspect of your life. And I can personally attest that will take you to much better places in life than passivity ever will. And it might just help us all avoid some hell on earth while we're at it. Why on earth would accountability, of all things, make you dangerous? Think about this. Unaccountable people are easy to manipulate through greed and guilt. The left loves to exploit people's feelings of guilt. Oh yeah, you should feel bad for all your crimes of existing as a white male, you know, all the racism and patriarchy that you just do. But not to worry, just do what we tell you and pay whatever penance we ask, and we might absolve you of your guilt. Maybe. Someday. They snatch up a lot of people with guilty consciences that way. They also use greed. Oh yeah, see those people over there? They have stuff you want. But if you vote for us, then together we can take it from them. You deserve it. Just put us in charge and you won't ever have to take responsibility for your life again. That's not what men do. Masculine men don't just make decisions. They take responsibility for the outcome. If a man doesn't have what he needs or what he wants, okay. that's on me. I need to do better. He doesn't blame other people or circumstances or God for his situation, and he definitely doesn't try to force other people to fix it for him. But what about that pesky, guilty conscience? We all deal with it, unless you're a psychopath. The answer is accountability in relationships. Life doesn't happen in a vacuum. We do this thing together. We hold ourselves accountable to the people we have to share this world with, and that we have a responsibility to look out for. If we mess up and hurt somebody, men take ownership of it and do what they can to make it right. And yes, some people will have unfair demands and make unjust accusations about stuff that you didn't do wrong, like say your skin color, your gender. But the good news is we aren't just accountable to people. Our ultimate accountability is in our relationship with God, and not a God that we just make up in our imagination. We let him speak for himself, and we hold ourselves accountable to the person that he says he is in his own words. And that's good news because he's a lot more just than people are. And kinder too. When we go to God and say, hey, I messed up, I'm sorry, his response is, that's okay. My son paid for it. All you got to do is believe. That's the only thing that can wipe away your guilt and close the back door of your conscience that people use to manipulate you. There is such a thing as toxic masculinity, but it's probably nothing like what you're used to hearing about. Think of it this way. Men and women reflect two different aspects of the image of God. Women are designed to create and sustain life with their own bodies. It's pretty amazing. I can't do that. But men are designed to protect and provide for others. You want to be really masculine? Be a giver. Be generous. That's what binds all the other elements together. You take away generosity from any of these and they turn instantly toxic. Because if you use any of this stuff just to get your own power or wealth or status and you never look out for anyone but yourself, then you'll become a plague to the people around you instead of a benefit. Strong masculinity is not toxic. Selfishness is toxic. Men are meant to be a blessing. But why is generosity so dangerous that Hollywood feels the need to erase it from men? Generous men become pillars of their community. They tend to have a lot of influence, and that's a threat to an institution that relies on monopolizing influence over people. Generous men also tend to have better social networks and better support systems. It's a lot harder to cancel someone who has a whole community behind them. Just ask the guy in Jesus' parable about the shrewd servant. Guys, I promise if you cultivate these 5 things, you will be prosperous, you will be dangerous to the establishment, and you will be a blessing to the people around you. If you want to take the next step into masculinity and become a more proactive decision maker, then check out this video right here. That's all I've got this time. Stay weird, be dangerous. We'll see you next time. Peace.